But yeah, I got talked into fighting. Mark Munoz, after I graduated and I was in grad school, he came and he was like, man, I think you'd be a great fighter, because I was falling around with some practices and working out with some of the bigger guys. He's like, I think you'd be really good at this sport. You should give it a shot. So he introduced me to Uriah up in Sacramento and dropped out of school, packed all my stuff in my truck and said, I'll give myself a year. If I'm any good at the sport, I'll stick with it. Otherwise, I'll just go back to school. And the rest was history, man. I went up to Alpha Male and started training and picked it up really quick and kind of had like a new invigorating like idea of competition, because wrestling was just like so mundane after a while and the workload, and just wasn't really into it. But then when I learned to fight, it was like learning how to strike was something very fun for me. It was something different that I could be good at and be competitive at. So I just fell in love with Muay Thai, and then it was like, dude, I could do this and it could be a real career.
All right.
Woo.
Dingo, we're live.
We are live!
I don't know why or how we started doing that, but like that's our thing. We do a drum roll.
Yeah. That was a strong one.
We are live. We are back on Twitch, guys. You are with me, the Dingo, Danny Cash, two-time Olympic silver medalist, and Brittney Palmer.
Hello.
And today's guest is TJ Dillashaw, two-time UFC Bantamweight Champion in the house. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, we're stoked. We're stoked to have you. We already seen that you and Brittney have the same watches on, so you guys are off to a good start.
But I hid mine because you made me feel insecure about it.
Well, you had on the outside of your shirt.
Well,
It looked a
it
little
looks
try-hard.
cooler.
It looked like you were showing off your watch.
Well, it's hard to
was.
read your watch when it's under your shirt.
Thank you, TJ Dillashaw.
She used to check the time all the time, you know?
You know what I
Makes
mean? I
sense.
gotta wrap this thing.
You're right. What rap? What thing?
She's a rapper now.
Happy belated birthday, Brittney.
Thank you.
I was gonna. We
Yeah,
don't
happy
talk about
birthday.
age, but you look great.
I'm 36. I'm happy to say it.
Are you?
Yeah.
Good for you.
You know what? 36-year-old ring girl? Why not?
Boom.
Yeah.
TJ, I've known you for some time. I bet you two have known each other even longer.
Yep.
Coming from the same world. I guess we'll go backwards here. How you doing? I know we were talking off air a little bit about your body. How you feeling?
I feel old.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, join the club here. We're all pretty old
Yeah.
here.
I mean,
I mean, if you've been in the sport long enough, your body's going to start feeling it, you know? So 37 years old, through like 9 surgeries through the sport. So it's it added up, but doing all right.
Do you feel like, I don't know, and maybe this is something that you can jump into, as I feel like when you're younger, you're more resilient, your body bounces back, injuries you can just be injured and still do what you do. As you get older, injuries are something that like you've really got to pay attention to, and if you don't do it right, it's one of those things that it'll take you down.
Yeah, it's one of those things now I don't want to get injured because it's hard to get out of bed.
Yeah, right?
It's like, oh, my fucking back, you know?
Yeah, I say that too, where it's like sometimes my first 3 or 4 steps out of bed are like the most painful.
Yeah.
You know, and I think as you get older, as like an athlete at that level, it's almost like you have to like work to be in your best shape to feel normal in a sense, or at least do the activities you want to do at a heavy
Couldn't
level.
agree with you more, man. I mean, I stick to a pretty like professional schedule even since I'm retired right now, you know? And it helps. It definitely helps with age, with your diet, your workout, your sleep schedule, with all of it.
I noticed I'm putting like CBD all over my body before I go to sleep. I'm like on my feet, on my knees.
Who's putting CBD over your body?
I am.
Oh.
Your CBD
it
bill
works.
must be expensive.
It is.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway.
I feel like, though, that's probably what we should all be doing.
We should all be
truthfully,
doing.
You know?
You have to like prep yourself before you go to sleep, so when you wake up, you're not so
Yeah.
messed up.
I moved, before we move on to soreness, I re-landscaped my property.
He's been buying
And,
lots of rocks.
Dude, I did like,
And
I think
grapevines.
I did 296 30-pound bags over 2 days.
By yourself?
My girlfriend and her friend helped me for like the first day a little bit.
And they're like, no, fuck that.
No, but then I was literally
She
in
was
bed
helping?
and I was
She
so
was helping?
sore. I was like, she's like, do you need anything? I'm like, yeah, can I get some Advil or Tylenol just to like go to bed? Because I was sore.
All right, so we're going to kick off. We've got a knockout video here of I'm done with your rock stand. We're moving on to
Ask me any
TJ.
questions you want on the chat.
We've got a highlight reel here of here's your knockout to Cody. What year was that?
2017.
That was 17. So that's when you took the belt back.
Yes, yep. That was after coaching the Ultimate Fighter.
And then this is Dom right here, right?
No, this is Renan Barão.
Oh,
This is the second fight against Renan Barão.
Okay.
Dude, your footwork here is incredible.
I appreciate it, man. I worked really hard on it.
And Renan was the person you beat for your first belt.
Yeah, man. He was the guy that was pound for pound, top of the list, hadn't lost in 33 fights or something, and just a monster everyone was afraid of, you know, and gave me no chance. I think it was an 8-1 underdog.
Yeah, Joe Rogan calls it the, I don't know, what do you call it?
Greatest performance he's seen or something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty gnarly for Joe to say.
I mean, it was awesome because at that time yet, I hadn't even been on like a main card or a big pay-per-view card yet, and then I was headlining one and fighting for the belt, just skyrocketing my career, you know?
What's that like going into a fight where you're up against someone who is 30-0? Like, that's got to be pretty intimidating to be like, all right, do you study more to like find ways and really like focus on what that person's style is?
I mean, with every fight, even if it's not someone that's pound for pound the best in the world, no matter what fight you're going into, you study them day in and day out. But fighting Barão that first time was just kind of tricking yourself into believing it was your destiny and your time, and you know, just being so optimistic that you don't have a chance to lose in your mind. You know, like I think that's everyone deals with pressure and nerves in different ways, but for me, it was making sure I had fun with it, and that I ultimately just believed how hard I trained, how good it was. You know.
What's your most memorable knockout?
That one was very nice because I stand up and scream in his face afterwards as well, because it was a lot of drama going into that fight against Garbrandt, a lot of like coaching against Ultimate Fighter, a lot of shit talk. But the most memorable still to this day would be my first Renan Barão fight. You know, I was fighting a guy that was unbeatable. He only lost one fight his whole career. Like I said, I was an 8-1 underdog, and at that time, you know, I was only getting paid 14 to fight, and you go out there and knock out the pound-for-pound champ and reset your whole entire career. I mean, that's got to be the most memorable.
What was your mindset going into that fight?
I knew how dangerous the guy was, and that, I mean, kind of all the pressure's taken off you when you're that big of an underdog. You know, like everyone's kind of expecting you to lose, so you just get to go out there and just kind of prove them wrong and have fun with it. When you're the favorite and you're supposed to win, there's a lot more pressure on you. So that one was nice too, because I just got to have fun with it. Just a little bit less pressure, even though I'm fighting probably the most dangerous guy I fought at the time. It was a lot easier for me to go into that fight week and that fight just being the underdog.
Because you don't go into a training camp thinking you can lose the fight, right?
No.
Right?
I mean, if you do, I mean, you're not going to make it even to the UFC if that's what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody is saying you're not going to win this fight.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, how are you dealing with that?
Surrounding yourself with the right coaches, the right teammates, your family, like the people that are really behind you, that are going to help you believe in yourself and show you the path to victory. Because there's a lot of naysayers in this world, no matter what, especially when you're on top. So just finding that tight circle that believes in you and loves you and is going to support you no matter what. Even if they do think that you're going to lose, they don't tell you that.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Do you think
I mean, you want everyone to be real with you, right?
Right.
You do.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you think that when you said that you had drama with Cody, like, do you think that sometimes helps the fight, or is it kind of whatever, but like having the drama, not having the drama, knowing them?
It depends on who you are. There's
Right.
some guys that like to fight with animosity and anger.
They just create an argument. You're like, what are we, you know?
That's the way they like to perform. I feel like finding the way that you perform is very important. You know, for me, it's having fun. So I learned that the hard way when I fought Dominic Cruz, because he was the first guy to start like talking shit to me and getting in my skin and pissing me off. So I went out there trying to kill the guy, and I didn't perform to my utmost ability in that fight. I found out with fights like when I fought Easton or Barão or these fights, when I really like capitalized on my performances, I was making sure I had fun, which is hard to do when you're super nervous. Some guys fight better scared, some guys fight better angry, some guys fight better having fun, and I'm the guy that likes to have a smile on my face and enjoy walking out in front of millions of people to watch you hopefully knock someone out.
Because you didn't clap back much. You spoke, but you weren't like a instigator in the chat, right? I remember you'd always talk back.
Yeah.
But you weren't like an instigator.
I'm really just not my personality, to be honest, either. Too. I've never been one to create an alter like personality for entertainment. I've always just kind of like stuck to who I was, and I'm just not a super confrontational guy, you know.
But you're in the era to where that changed.
Yes.
Like I think pre-you it was like more that it was just a little bit different, but then it came through. Conor had that kind of come through around that same time.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Cody. A lot of the bantamweights, the chit chat that even over the years that Henry had, and we don't like Henry at this table, so it's all good. But I'm just saying that like people have taken it overboard, and you were always kind of like calm, collected, and kind of.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the guys that I looked up to when I got into the sport were guys like GSP, guys that kind of handled themselves in
Icon.
a professional way and treated the sport like a professional. There was outliers like Chael Sonnen and guys like that really got a lot of great attention. And then when Conor came in, it kind of just molded the game to where it's a full-blown entertainment business, and you got to be a character, And I'd say if I would have been a character, I could have been a lot bigger of a star. But
You're a big star, dude.
It just made me uncomfortable, and
Right.
I didn't like it. So I was just kind of like, I defended myself, but I kind of avoided the drama for the most part.
Yeah, but don't ever say that you were a staple and a big star, even outside of your sport.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you did a lot. You did a lot for the sport. Growing up wrestling, obviously you were obviously wrestling is one of those things in MMA or UFC. The whole thing, if you can't wrestle, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays. Yeah, I mean, back before I got into the sport, you can get away with being good at one thing and make it to the top. But now it's like you have to be so well rounded. You have any holes in your game, guys are going to exploit it. I wrestled my entire life, and then caught on to striking. So it was, yeah. I mean, you look at some of the best guys in the world; they're all great wrestlers.
Yeah. So you came through the NCAA
Yep.
Division National, okay,
Yeah.
and then when did like you figured that you would get in the cage, or when did that change? Like
I got talked into it, man. So I was on a full ride scholarship at Cal State Fullerton when they still had a wrestling program.
Did you go to the Olympics?
No, it's a completely different. Here in the United States, we're like the only country that does a different style of wrestling. It's called collegiate wrestling.
Yep.
Everywhere else in the world does freestyle and Greco, which is the Olympic style of sport of wrestling. I never really vibed with it. I didn't like it very much. So I didn't, and there's no money in it.
Right.
If I was going to graduate college, I'd rather. I was enrolled in grad school to become a physician's assistant, and I had an assistant coach at the time, Mark Munoz, who was in the UFC. He was on the scene and making names for himself. And after I graduated, I didn't ever. I never reached my goals in wrestling. That as good as I was, I didn't do what I was supposed to.
Why do you think that was?
I put a lot more pressure on myself back then. Like I wrestled since I was in third grade, and everyone knew that I was good and had these expectations of me, and got a full ride scholarship to college, and was ranked top 10 in the nation, and just I think I put too much pressure on myself, and I never enjoyed wrestling.
Yeah.
Like I did it because I was really good at it. But it wasn't something that I was happy to go to practice every day,
But you probably didn't know any different.
Yeah. I mean, that was my entire career. My entire life was just competing and training. I never had a job up to that point. Like, just competing was my job.
Isn't it crazy? Like at such a young age to do those things repetitively. Like whether it's wrestling or swimming or snowboarding. But it's to a point too. Like we both went through a phase where I didn't want to fucking get on a snowboard.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get burned out, for sure.
Is it because you guys the pressure to be great at it, or is it just like you were like, I've done so much of it.
You do
I'm
something
bored.
every single day, it can get a little repetitive, and
Sure.
especially when it becomes a job or you're working within an industry, it's like it's even more
Takes the fun out a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I almost quit wrestling when I was a kid too, but stuck with it.
Thank God.
Yeah. Thank goodness. Yeah. But yeah, I got talked into fighting. Mark Munoz, after I graduated and I was in grad school, he came and he was like, man, I think you'd be a great fighter, because I was falling around with some practices and working out with some of the bigger guys. He's like, I think you'd be really good at this sport. You should give it a shot. So he introduced me to Uriah up in Sacramento, and dropped out of school, packed all my stuff in my truck, and said, I'll give myself a year. If I'm any good at the sport, I'll stick with it. Otherwise, I'll just go back to school. And the rest was history, man. I went up to Alpha Male and started training and picked it up really quick, and kind of had like a new invigorating idea of competition, because wrestling was just so mundane after a while, and the workload, and just wasn't really into it. But then when I learned to fight, it was like learning how to strike was something very fun for me. It was something different that I could be good at and be competitive at. So I just fell in love with Muay Thai, and then it was like, dude, I could do this, and it could be a real career.
So you were in the 2011. You were in the Ultimate Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
What season was that?
That was season 14. That was when they switched from. They just got on. What
was it on Spike?
New network. I forget.
Fox. Was that the switch to Fox?
No, I think it was on Spike actually. Still, I think it was the last one on Spike. Yeah, because then I helped Uriah coach on. Yeah, so then I helped Uriah coach 15 and that's when they went to the Fox and we did the first live show ever.
Yep.
But yeah, so it was during Spike. It was on Spike. Yeah, season 14.
How's that process like to go in with a bunch of, I guess, I mean, you call them rookies at that point?
Yeah, to an extent. Some of the guys had like insane records. I only had 4 fights at the time, but the guy that I fought to get into the house had like 32 fights. So, but it was the first time that the UFC had the 135 and 145 pound division. Before that was WEC, and the UFC just took over WEC. And so that season was to introduce the bantamweights and featherweights to the UFC. So I was fighting guys that had been fighting for a long time. There was a few guys that were fresh, like myself, but otherwise it was guys that were very well in the sport already.
And then going back to Sacramento and Uriah, did you train? Did he have his gym back then?
Yeah, he still does have a gym.
Yeah, no, I know that now, but he had it back then as well. But he was still fighting at the time, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What weight was he?
He was my weight, 145,
Did
135.
you guys fought?
We never fought in the cage, but we fought every day in practice.
In practice.
Yeah, it was like big brother, little brother kind of fights, to where the guy's out the ring and you're still hitting him and you love each other, but you hate each other at the same time kind of thing,
That's kind of crazy, like to know someone or train with someone or be really good friends with somebody and then get in the ring and just be like, I'm going to fucking knock you out.
It's not
Garbrandt, yeah. I trained with Garbrandt a bunch. He
Are
was
you guys still friends?
No, not at all. not at all.
No.
It was just too much shit, man. Like I was in a crazy situation. I had the belt, and I was training with Dwayne Ludwig out in Colorado, and I was also training in Sacramento with Team Alpha, who I started with. But Dwayne started coming being the coach, and so then Uriah kind of gave me an ultimatum. He was like, "Hey, man, you're either with Dwayne or you're with us." And so I chose to go with Dwayne. He's the one that got me to the belt, and made a lot of big improvements on myself. So that started a lot of drama with me moving out of the team, and that's why Garbrandt came to the gym. He was a nobody yet, and I was helping him train and become good enough to get into the UFC. And then all that animosity with knowing each other and talking shit. So
Yeah, it's yeah. And he just won his last fight, kind of, right?
He did win, yes. He was on like a 5-fight losing streak or something, but it was like a lot of pressure, man. It was because if he would have lost again, it's kind of like
you're out.
I mean, he probably should have been already, but luckily he's a big enough star. They'll keep him around, and you got to win. You got to go win. So I think he's fighting again in August. I think he's fighting on the Sean O'Malley in
Boston.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think he's on that.
Boston's a weird. It's a big draw card,
I'm
right?
excited to go to that one.
Why?
I like Boston.
Yeah, why?
This is a good time of year to go. Boston's dope.
A good time of year to go.
It is. It's if you go up to Needham and Dover, it's just really pretty. It's Boston.
Did they do Boston because of the Sean O'Malley? Is that why they aligned that, like the Irish thing?
I have Aljamain actually lives close.
It's his home court.
Well, he was in New York, I believe. I don't know where.
So
he's from
originally I thought that fight was going to be Madison Square Garden. Obviously, it's not, but Boston's. That's crazy too. That Cody's turned around that quick. Shit, I lost my train of thought. But where was I at right there? So you won the Ultimate Fighter 2011, and then that gap between 2011 and then when you won your first belt, like what was that road like? Because you didn't lose too many fights. You haven't lost that many fights.
No, well, I actually lost in the finals of the Ultimate Fighter. I fought John Dotson and got caught. And then I went on a 4-fight winning streak, and then I lost a split decision, which was such bullshit, to Rafael since I fought him in Brazil.
That's got to be tough too.
Yeah, I mean, in his backyard, and I lost a split decision that one. Then I won another 4 fights. In that was it 4 fights? I lost to a Sensao, and then I beat Easton, and then I fought Barão. So from 2011 to 2014, so it took me 4 years to win my belt, getting into the sport, which was a very fast track to getting to the top.
Most people it takes. Most people get into their early 30s. Late 20s, early 30s?
Yeah, I mean, your prime is probably late 20s, early 30s. It just depends on everyone else's situation. I mean, when you started, I didn't learn to throw my first punch until I was 24 years old.
That's so crazy.
And then I won the belt when I was 28 because I graduated college and then just like, I'll give this thing a shot, Luckily, I was just able to pick it up really fast.
It'd be an interesting stat on how many UFC fighters have graduated college.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's this stigma.
Did you graduate college?
No.
But you went.
But I'm not a UFC fighter, so it doesn't really matter.
you're an employee.
It's not a criteria. But I think, there's this stigma of like, oh, UFC fighters are just like dropout rejects, guys who just like fight, in school. But that's absolutely not true. There's a lot that have graduated college. Did you graduate college? Wait, here's a better question. Did you graduate high school?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say maybe back when the sport first started, it was probably more of like the guys that come from a harder upbringing, maybe didn't go to school or didn't have like the best life growing up, and just like they fell into it.
Yeah.
But that's fighting in general, right? Like even going back to, I'll go back to boxing, but like with MMA, with all of it being tied into one and being only new, this is what, legitimately 23 years old or 22 years old. Legit, like
Started in the early 90s. So
early. Okay, so go back a little
30
longer,
years,
but
yeah.
mainstream. It's been mainstream.
Yeah.
About then. Okay, so let's.
Yeah.
But going back to it, wrestling is something they put through college, and now wrestlers have brought in some smarter people.
They're definitely bringing in a different tutelage to the sport. Guys that are educated from, I went to school for exercise science, right? So I'm bringing in a nutrition background,
Which is one of the most important things about what you guys do.
Absolutely. I mean, we're one of those sports you actually got to make weight too, which is a lot of sports don't have to do that, and it's a lot of times a full-time job. You get in, like right now I weigh 175 pounds. I fought at 135.
And that's crazy. And the last time you fought at that, we were talking about that off air. So you actually went down a weight size.
Yeah.
And that was actually not good for your body.
It was horrible. I went full-blown anemic. Like my body was pretty much telling me that I'm way too skinny and that I'm causing myself to die pretty much. I got down to 4% body fat, and your body will just crash. Your endocrine system, like all your hormones, everything just crash.
Can I ask a question? So after weigh-in, what like you made weight, what did you actually probably weigh when you fought the next day?
Yeah, when I fought Cejudo after 125s, I weighed in at 152.
So you gained
27 pounds.
in what, a week, 2 weeks?
No, I gained in 30 hours.
30 hours?
You got to weigh in, and then the fight's the next day.
See, that's the part of this sport I would be good at.
What?
Gaining the weight. Yeah.
Gaining 20 pounds in 30 hours.
It's a lot harder to gain weight than
How do
it is
you
to lose
gain
it.
that? Just because all the water, right?
It's a lot of water weight, yeah. And
So you must got to pee, too.
even when I fought 135s, I'd walk into the cage at 152. So I was able to get my body back to what I naturally was walking around at training. And it's a very scientific way. The way that my coach, Sam Calvita out of the training lab, has a water load. So when I'm fighting 135s, a week before my fight, if I weigh 150, I know that I've made weight. Now it's just about water displacement. Not everyone does it this way, but it's by far the best way I've ever learned how to do it. But when I'm 7 days out, I'm going to drink 2 gallons and 2.5 gallons of water on that day. And so you're flushing your body with water, but some minerals as well too. And then as the days get closer and closer to weigh-in, so for instance, 6 days out, I'll drink 2 gallons. 5 days out, I'll drink 1.75 gallons. 4 days out, I'll drink 1.5 gallons. 3 down to like 24 hours before weigh-ins. I'm not really drinking much water. My body thinks it's dying from having too much water, so I'm sweating easy. I'm pissing every 15 minutes, and I just flush the water through my body to make the weight. And so it like at a just extreme rate, just making you lose water weight.
I feel like it would suck to drink that much
It
water.
does.
Like I can barely do my 2 big bottles, and I'm like, damn, that's a lot of water to drink.
I know. I get told to drink water.
You do need to drink more water.
Well, that's an EDC usually.
I'll get like a text message being like, "Have you drunk water today?" Yeah.
A little bit.
There's water in this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We had this conversation off air a little bit too, and then it even goes back to stars in the sport, and I think that I don't think we're lacking stars. I think we're lacking stars in America. I think there's been a big come up of like the Eastern European or that kind of realm, and even on that side of the world a little bit more. Even Australia has had like a massive kind of like pull through. But you're looking at the current in fighting stars right now, and there's obviously John Jones, Sean O'Malley, who's would be fighting your weight coming up. And it'd be cool to get your opinions on that fight. But like, how do you think we kind of regain some of these stars? Like in your time there of 2014 to say 2020, a lot of American stars, a lot of stars in your weight division.
I think it goes through waves. When I was first getting into the sport, Brazil was like taking over. You
Yep.
know, you had Barão, you had Aldo, you had Verdum, you had all these guys that were making huge names for Brazil, and then it was the United States, and then it's Australia with Izzy and dang it, 45-pounder, drawing a blank, but they got 2 champions around from the same
Obolowski?
team. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I think it just goes through waves. You know,
Don't ask Brittney any questions about UFC. She don't know shit.
Excuse me.
she's always got the front row seat though.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Front row seat sipping. So you're going to the fight in Boston.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big fight.
I'm excited.
Yeah, man. Fingers crossed for my buddy.
Yeah. Sean,
Yeah,
he'll do good. He'll do well.
I hope so. Crazy. But going back to it, like, we need more O'Malley's. Like, I think it's...
And we just lost Amanda Nunes.
That was... Wow. I actually teared up on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one knew. She really
Nah.
did. That wasn't like. And it's interesting when fighters retire. It's like my question is like, does Dana know?
He didn't. She
No, he
jumped
didn't
over.
know.
I was like, what
Yeah.
is she doing? She jumped over and ran up to Dana and Hunter, and then they picked up their little phone. I don't know who that phone's connected to.
All right.
But
Lorenzo, or like he's still very much there. Who knows?
but there's that weird little phone that looks like they're connected to the president, or it's connected to some like bomb that could like beep. And then she jumped back in through the thing. It really emotional. Her wife was there. Her kid was there. Crazy.
Yeah.
I like to see people go out on top.
Yeah. Smart.
It's hard to go the other way.
Yeah.
You know,
I
when
wonder
a-
if she had like that plan. She was like, well, once I do this is the time.
For
Right?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
You can't really take the mic back if you didn't win. Like, hey guys, actually, I'm gonna retire. Like, that's the way to do it. You have to have the mic.
Yeah, I don't know. Just what goes through your head on that?
I have always told myself I'd never make a decision inside the cage if I was going to retire or not. Unfortunately, right now I am retired, and I'm a little bitter about it because I didn't get to choose to retire.
Right.
It's something I've been forced into because of injury and just the years of beating my body up. Especially thinking that I know that I could be on top still and just having to walk away from the sport. But I just knew that I would never make an emotional decision in the cage. I would always like to get home, talk to my family, talk to my coaches, my teammates, and then maybe decide from there,
Yeah.
But I'm probably one of those guys that would do it until obviously the wheels have broke off,
Yeah, your last fight was kind of intense.
Yeah, it was a bummer, man. It was a total bummer. It was such a good fight for me. I matched up so well against Aljamain Sterling. I got the title fight after beating Sandhagen. So beginning of 2022, I blew my shoulder. May of 2022, I blew my shoulder out. And it was already bad, but it went all the way. Completely ripped off 2 of the rotator cuffs from the shoulder. And then just decided that I was still going to take the fight because I already had 3 shoulder surgeries. I knew the 4th was not going to be good. It already wasn't good to begin with. And so there's always that thing in the back of my head is like, will I ever be able to fight again? And also, if I just get surgery now, I'm not going to be able to come back and get a title fight. And also, the guy that I'm fighting, I'm very well matched up against. Like, Sterling's striking is just god-awful. I'm a great wrestler, like, great jiu-jitsu. I think that I'm the toughest fight for him. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to do it. I got one arm, but I still believe. With all this said, I went into the fight still believing that I would get the job done. I would beat him, even though I had one arm.
One arm.
As training camp went on, so May I hurt my shoulder, never dislocated, but I ripped the rotator cuffs from the bone. I didn't have any external rotation. Like I can't do this.
Look at that. You can't even move it right now.
I can't even like get my elbow into here. It doesn't hurt. It's just that it doesn't work. But then as fight camp went on, I'm like 5 or 6 weeks out from the fight. I dislocated my shoulder for the first time, and then it just kept happening. Got worse and worse and worse. Probably dislocated my shoulder a good like 20 times before the fight. And it got good enough to where I could pop it back in.
I saw you trying to pop it back in the whole fight.
Yeah, well,
wow.
I dislocated it in the first 30 seconds, unfortunately, like the first takedown, and then the whole first round, it like takes my back, and I have to fight it with one arm, and I'm trying to get my arm in the whole
Dude,
time.
it's crazy.
But then in between rounds, I sit down, and luckily not luckily, this is a horrible situation, but me and my coaches have practiced putting my shoulder back into place because it had happened so many times that I was with my coaches and was teaching them how to get it in for me. So I went down, sat in the corner, had to like lean over, and Felipe De La Monica, my jiu-jitsu coach, like pulled it back into place and it popped in. Doctors came in and checked me out, and by then it's in. So I'm like, oh, I'm good. Don't worry about it. Let's keep going.
Wow.
Yeah, the total bummer, man. And that's like kind of a shitty way to have to go out, thinking that you're still good enough to be on top, but your body just doesn't want to let you do it.
Well, I don't think it's over yet.
You said you have a nice backyard. What do you enjoy doing in the yard?
Got a pool. It's great for the summer and a 5-year-old. Got a dope sauna in the backyard. I got a putting green.
Dang.
How's your
Putting
golf?
green. I've been
You
thinking
gotta
about
do
this
it.
recently of like a little like a mini golf chip kind of a thing I've been
Yes.
thinking about.
It's a lot of fun, man. You get your friends over. Easy way to drink some beer and play some games and chipping and putting. I love the putting green I have in my backyard.
Did you bring in some fancy grass for it or?
Yeah, I hired someone to do it.
Really?
It's like turf.
Okay.
So I don't have to like keep it. Because the putting green you have to keep so low, and really compact and hard. So doing like a turf is the best way to go for that.
We do fake grass here in California, Dan.
You do?
Yeah. We're
Everywhere's AstroTurf?
we're eco-friendly. Well, we ran out of water, so like the fake grass. Well, I think we got a lot of water now though.
Yeah, insane amount.
But we ran out, so like
Everybody just removed their grass. and
over
no
the
turf.
last like 20 years, turf's kind of become the
Turf's
thing here.
expensive.
It
though.
is.
Yeah, well, it lasts forever. Well, not forever, but
Well, yeah.
until you got to re-turf.
Returf.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
You
Back to the show, everybody.
Yeah, all right.
So winning the championship is one thing. Retaining it is like another. How hard's that? Because now we talk about on the front side of being the underdog, getting there. Now everybody has your number.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to stay on top because you have a target on your back. Everyone's watching tape on you, and then all the expectations and the media you got to do, the interviews, the workload gets a lot more. You obviously get paid more for that workload and for the attention, but it's a lot harder to do. It's a lot of work in and out to make sure that you stay motivated. I mean, like we're talking about getting burned out from a sport. It burns you out from the sport. Like you learn to not love it as much because there's so much work that goes into it and all the interviews and the time away from home. It just wears on you.
Someone in the
I got it right here. Right here, it's RR Ustemi. TJ, how come your stance is so good? How come both your stances are so good?
I trained a lot with Dwayne Ludwig specifically. So I started off orthodox, but when I wrestled with my right leg forward. But when you're orthodox, it's your left leg forward. So because you're right-handed, you want your power in the back. But when I wrestled, I was right leg forward. So I was pretty ambidextrous anyways. And then when I started learning striking to the highest end, I learned it in both stances right away, which kind of helped me just get really comfortable in both stances, which when you learn from a boxing coach a while ago, they would say never switch stances. You're too vulnerable in your defense and like don't do this, don't do that. But I feel like myself specifically was the one that started to evolve in that to create these guys that start fighting in both stances and switching.
Yeah, that's I mean that must make it harder for your opponents.
Absolutely, especially when you're game planning for an opponent. Say he's an orthodox fighter, he usually does this stuff, but then all of a sudden he switches up his stance. Your offense has to be different as well as your defense. Like if you're in an opposite stance, you want your lead foot outside his, so your cross is going to line up better. And if you're an orthodox, you don't have to worry about that as much. So your positioning's got to change. Your power strikes are different, so it makes them think. And if I can get them to think, they're going to be a half a second behind me, right? That's like the whole goal. And I believe in being the best martial artist in the UFC possible is continuing to keep your opponent guessing and setting up traps. Like faking that I'm going to hit a takedown, but really I'm going to kick you in the head. Or that if I'm fighting orthodox, I'm switching my stance and going southpaw and hitting jabs right off of it. And if I can get you to second guess what I'm doing, then I'm ahead of you.
When would you know to switch stances?
You just kind of muscle memory and you see openings, and especially when you're game planning against someone and you see their tendencies, good or bad, of what they do, and then you just kind of visually see it while you're in a fight that, hey, I should be in southpaw right now. I can get this angle. Like when I fought Barão, I realized when he fought a southpaw, his defense wasn't as good because of the way that he blocked. And so I fought a lot of that fight in southpaw so that I can hit my sprint cross, get outside his shoulder, land my power punch, and then be able to come back on him in my orthodox stance. So just seeing openings in people, you know when to switch.
So Gronkowski told us like the difference like with Tom Brady to like most other quarterbacks is that like he could make that split decision in that second on where he's going to pass that ball. And I think that's probably very similar with what you got to do. It's not like a forward thinking of doing a snowboard run or a skateboard run where you can plan it out. you've got to make that split decision because people are coming at you every which way, feet, arms, legs, whatever it is. And going back to that, the difference between having that split decision is whether you're going to get knocked out or not.
That's a great point. We have like an unpredictable environment in our competition, right? We don't have a snowboard run that stays the same the whole time. We have someone else in front of us that could be doing anything, and you have to be ready for that. And so, like, you have a game plan going into the fight, but I'd say 90% of the time that game plan switches halfway through the fight or from round to round.
Yeah. Who do we have in here? We have waiting to go K. Bet people are doing the what? Wrong one. Where did that question go?
I got a question because you were saying, like, we were talking about a little bit of the burnout of the training because there's so much training that goes into, you know, MMA and the wrestling thing, right? So how many different, like, is changing up styles and learning different, like, martial arts, like, does that, like, keep more energy and make those training sessions exciting, like, as you are kind of in the lead of, you know?
I never thought about it, but
Belt search.
absolutely. I think finding new styles and new coaches all the time. Right? It's one thing I held myself very highly to is that I would never get stuck under one coach or one training partner. I traveled the world and tried to learn from the best. You know, Master Tong's my first trainer for striking and jiu-jitsu. Like, I traveled to find the best coaches and to learn from everyone. And then when you're learning from a different style, a different attitude, a different style of coaching, it keeps it a little more intriguing. It's like learning a new puzzle, like doing a new puzzle or something.
And how many different, like, martial art styles did you really focus on?
So wrestling, striking, which could be boxing or kickboxing. You train both of them. Jiu-jitsu are my main three, I would say. And then I feel like strength and conditioning is like a full-blown, like, sport on its own. I mean, there is, like, powerlifting and that kind of stuff. But for us professional fighters, we have to train so many energy systems that it's a full-time job as well, too. Like, I have to know what days I'm doing my long low-base cardio. I got to know what days I'm doing hard, intense HIIT training, and then what days are more specific for martial arts.
Crazy. Black and Fish here says, TJ, how old were you when you committed to like full-time grappling or learning MMA? And then any tips for grappling?
I was 24. I went a whole wrestling career until I graduated college, and then I decided to become a fighter. So I didn't do any jiu-jitsu, or the only kind of grappling I did was wrestling. So I didn't do any jiu-jitsu or throwing any punches until I was 24 years old. And the tips I would give you is pretty much what I was just telling you, is to travel the world and learn from everyone. And everyone's got something to teach. You might not stick with your game plan or who you are as a fighter, but I think just being open to learn from everyone, training partners, coaches, because you might learn something throughout that time that could change your entire career.
How different are the different cultures? Like, say, Brazilian, Thai, I don't know, like even, you know, like Eastern European, Russian. How different are everyone's styles? Like, because Brazilians are obviously way different than, say, Americans, right?
Yeah. I feel like it used to be a bigger difference, like bigger difference in backgrounds of where you grew up or what you were learning. Like, wrestler compared to jiu-jitsu, a wrestler that learned how to do jiu-jitsu versus a jiu-jitsu guy that learned how to wrestle. But now everyone has seen the world of MMA for so long that these kids are training MMA from a young age. They're not being a wrestler like myself. They're like, hey, I should try MMA. Or being a Taekwondo guy is like, maybe I should try MMA. These kids are doing MMA practices from when they're 8 years old, like pretty much when I learned how to wrestle. So those differences are kind of all becoming uniform for the most part now.
Cool. Lee Marvin here. We're just kind of knocking out questions, which is cool. But Lee Marvin here, and I like this one. Most likable opponent.
That's a good question. Most likable. There was an opponent I fought. His name's Hugo Viana. He was like always had a smile on his face, super friendly. Felt bad to kick him in the head. You know,
That's what I was wondering. Yeah. Like, does it come to a point where you're like,
I'm sorry,
man, like I really don't want to punch this guy in the head, but I'm going to. Oh,
yeah.
Another opportunity. Oh man, sorry.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously you're not thinking that when you're out there because everything's on the line, and you don't want to be the guy that's created into a meme, getting knocked out all over the world, right? So it's like, no matter what you're gonna do, you go out there and win. But yeah, afterwards you're like, oh, damn, that sucked. I had to knock that guy out. You know? But no, Hugo was one of those very, very nice guys. Yeah.
Completely off topic here, but Danny's a big fan of OnlyFans. He calls it fans only, and Brittney's very popular on OnlyFans. We've never been to her account.
No.
Because we're too cheap.
But I'm sure some of the people in the chat have. You have an OnlyFans?
I do.
And what goes on there?
Yeah, tell us
Yeah.
everything. This is what we were talking about before. I wanted to wait to hear it.
Mine's like solely MMA technique and strength and conditioning tips, and also what I'm going through right now with my shoulder. So like shoulder rehab stuff. If you're wanting to learn striking, wrestling, or jiu-jitsu, I'm teaching stuff like that on there. And I'm teaching like strength and conditioning tips, what lifts to do and when to do them, kind of things like that.
See, that's what I think is so incredible about that platform. They've really done a great job at turning that stigma and like did a 180, because now they have the fighters that are going on teaching technique. You can teach diet. They have trainers. It's like an all around. It's a fans only.
Yeah,
What are you doing on there?
Well,
I'm painting on there. Excuse me.
I'm just doing karate on there with no pants.
yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Do your
I'm
fans?
sorry.
I'm just painting naked, okay?
Do any of your fans wonder what you're doing on there who aren't on there? Or-
Oh, absolutely. Even just bringing up OnlyFans.
Take it off.
It's just kind of like, it's got this stigma.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit embarrassing, right? It's like, no, I'm just teaching technique on there and stuff, and showing my feet.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like, wasn't it started as like a cooking channel?
Was it?
Only
No.
fans? I don't think
No
it was.
chance.
From my understanding, it just started as a platform for influencers to show what they do and get their subscribers to actually pay them rather than some other company. But then the porn industry just took off, obviously.
Well, I think it was all timing too. COVID hit, so people didn't really have jobs, but then people had this extra stimulus check money, and then girls they followed on Instagram where like you could follow something deeper than Instagram, and then
Yep.
you got to see something.
Well, it's like
Instagram's just
Instagram
bathing
doesn't pay
suits.
you. You post all this content, you create content for these platforms, and they don't pay you.
They
They
own
ban you. There's filters and like not like filters, but like they filter what you say and what you do and what you post. So OnlyFans is an opportunity for people to show whatever you want.
Right. Well, everyone.
fighting techniques.
Yeah, cool. Follow.
I mean, there's a price for everything.
You guys should start one and do snowboarding techniques. I'll help you run it.
Oh yeah.
I heard TikTok's gonna get banned soon.
TikTok?
That's what I heard.
We've already heard that.
I heard it from a reliable
That's
source.
old news.
TJ, Black and Fishing here is. Do you see yourself going into coaching later on?
I've been asked to multiple times now to coach. I'm super busy right now with a couple other businesses that I'm starting. So I haven't had a lot of the time, but I have been approached about it. So I could see myself doing it. I have been a little bit bitter about the sport right now, so I haven't really wanted to be around it that much.
Right.
You
That's
know?
understandable, though.
But isn't that interesting? Like when you stop doing something that you loved so much, it's like hard to even watch it, right? I was just talking about this the other day.
I'd say that I loved it at first.
Yeah.
Right? And it did turn into a job, especially when you're on top and having to do all the media and do all that crazy stuff. I enjoyed it at first, but then it got real old and turned into a job. And yeah, it got burnt out. Just got burnt out.
I think it takes some time from going from like a very high profile, like professional level to like transitioning into coaching, right? Like it takes the time for you to like almost get to step back from it and develop that missing it a little bit and then be like, oh wow, like I spent my whole life learning wrestling, these fightings, like I can teach so much to someone. And that's where like it gets rewarding again. But it does take like a mini retirement for yourself to really like enjoy your life.
Is that what you did?
That's what I did, yeah.
How long did you retire? For?
She's probably like only like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, but you also got to understand he went from like being at the top,
Yeah.
promote on Nike boot, the whole name on every single product you have. But it is. It's like being at the top, and then you're like, shit, like people. If I get on my snowboard, people think that I've got a snowboard like this, which is a thing, or they expect you to be a certain way, and you just want to like relax.
4 or 5 years that's a decent amount of time though before you like got into coaching.
But also
right?
then to get back into coaching, but then to like go through those avenues and then coach a girl to an Olympic medal is like you go back down that same road, but you're like you're not the one doing it. You're kind of helping this person, so it's kind of
And
cool.
it's almost like you have to heal from the trauma of the pressure. You know what I mean? Because that's a whole different like ball game. Because there's that pressure that starts building your cortisol. Like I mean, your central nervous system is constantly like this and this, and so I think like it takes some time to heal that. Then you're like you go in with a different set of expectations for yourself, for whoever you're coaching, right?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, definitely for me, it was a pretty big shock because I kind of like forgot what that competition pressure was. Like I didn't miss it at all, but it was like you really didn't remember it. You just remember how much you didn't like it, right? Like anxiety, this, that, and then I remember coaching this girl, Corral, where she was doing really well, but then it was like, whoa, like watching her in a competition, I was like, oh my God, I never thought I'd feel like this again. This is crazy.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Like, you need to land this run right now. Like, this is it. I can't do anything else.
Did you get as much gratification out of coaching her to becoming successful as yourself?
I got a lot out of it. I mean, obviously, like when you're in the spotlight, it's really fun. So I would definitely wouldn't say it's the same, but that's not very rewarding in a way, right? Like it's rewarding to actually help people or a cause. And for her, it was really cool because she was about 32. And I remember I kind of checked out of retired from heavy competition in my 30s. So when I went to work with her, it was really cool because I was like, you know what, these are a lot of the things that would have kept me going that I didn't have around me in my circle of okay, this can make this training fun, or we can do this and this. So after having a few years to think about it, I really got to implement it over a few seasons with her, and it was really rewarding because I was like, wow, that's how you can really max out a career, especially for an athlete a position I've been in before. And then also with young kids, because then it's really fun. You see the lights turn on really fast, where they're learning something, multiple things a day, where you're like, wow, that's really cool.
You see some big gains.
And you see big gains, and you hear it from their parents, wow, that was great. I had my kid had the best time ever with you, and now they love this part of the sport. You're like, wow, all
that's
right.
Cool.
I had a pretty good day.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you had a really great day,
What's a dream fight you never got?
I don't think there was one that ever really stood out that I wanted that I didn't get to have.
Yeah, you basically got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I lived it. I mean, I was on top. Maybe some fights that didn't go my way, I wish would have changed and I can have them back. But other than that, it was, I did what I wanted to do. And that's, I mean, I'm okay with being 37 years old and being retired. I'm just not okay with how I had to retire and thinking that I could still, that I know that I could still be on top,
Yeah.
But you're dealt the cards you're dealt and you got to roll with them.
Yeah, and it's not up to you, your body. Your body's gone through this tremendous you're basically, you don't really have an arm.
Yeah, I still have to have surgery. Yeah, I had a full-blown surgery in November. I tore my labrum, my 2 rotator cuffs, my bicep tendon, and I dented my humeral head. So I had a big dent out of it from how many times I dislocated it. And the surgery didn't take because I have chronic rotator cuff failure, and they have to go back in and do gnarly surgery coming up where they're going to take a piece of my lower trap and put it in my shoulder for my rotator cuff, because my rotator cuff, they said, is stitching back together wet toilet paper. It just doesn't want to stay because it's been torn so many times. So I got to take a piece of my lower trap, put it in my shoulder. They're going to use a Achilles tendon to attach it with, and then I got to get cadaver bone graft. So I got to get someone else's humeral head, the ball that goes in your shoulder, replaced, so that my rotator cuff or my lower trap will attach to it.
Where does that ball come from?
It's a cadaver. Someone else.
Someone else.
Yeah, I was
Where
gonna
does
ask
that Achilles come from?
Someone else as well too.
Do you need our blood type? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
yeah. I
about
was
to
gonna
ask
ask
us?
what blood type you guys. I'm in line waiting.
You
right
want
now.
his. You want his. He's got the
I
good.
don't know. All my shit's pretty worn out, man. Get a discount on my. I thought I tore my Achilles last year. I just strained my.
I got a
calf.
good Achilles. You can have my Achilles.
Oh, dope.
He actually has beautiful.
I got great calf muscles
Achilles.
too.
Nice.
I don't know if you need a calf muscle, but
Yeah.
mine are naturally beautied. Some people think I had surgery to make them look like that.
Some calf
but-
implants.
Yeah, I got some good limbs, some bad limbs. It's Brittney got some all
I got
good.
some. I'm good.
Man, the sport's changed a lot. You think the sport's changed in a good way or a bad way?
Only for the best, man. It's just continuing to grow. I do love some of the old ways, right? There's some old things about the sport that I love that aren't ever going to be the same, but ultimately the sports is continuing to grow. It's becoming more and more mainstream, which is great. It's great for these kids that are coming up. They're going to want to create a true living out of it, and the sport just to flourish.
You can see Brittney's now being added to the
Yay.
the
backboard,
sign,
the sign.
the
It's
sign,
official.
the table. She's official. TJ, she came on and did an episode and then kind of never left.
Nice.
I was walking out. I was like, "Hey guys, thanks for having me. If you need a female host, I'll do it." And then they, Kim, our girl, called and she's like, "Actually, we might need you."
That's
and,
an amazing compliment.
You
Come
know?
from a guest to a host.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And then Danny has these lightning round questions that we're going to finish up with. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry for that disclaimer too. We can only send a year's supply of Monster Energy to United States. We're working on the international thing, but.
All right. So first up, lightning round question, whatever pops into your mind. Super easy. Most meaningful tattoo you have?
I have quite a few. Like some on my,
I know,
some
he's
on my
got a-
legs.
I mean,
too.
is it just can it just be one?
On your arm.
Yeah,
on
so-
your arm.
So I have my wife's eye right here with the reflection of me
Wow.
in the eyeball holding up the belt the night I beat Barão.
Wow.
It's a pretty like meaningful tattoo. So I'd probably go with, and just like the detail on it. My tattoo artist, Akirmo, he's awesome.
What feels better, knockout from the fist or knockout from the foot?
Oh man, it just depends how flush it lands. I've had both of them. I'd say maybe the fist, just because it's so personal. Like when I knocked out Garbrandt right here with my right hand, it was just like, you guys played baseball or golf where you hit like a perfect shot and it feels feel like you hit nothing, right? That's what like a knockout feels like when you try to hit something so hard and just feel like you hit air. That's like the best feeling. Yeah.
Most deadly submission move
For me or just anyone.
for anyone?
I mean, I don't like the heel hooks and that kind of stuff. It'll blow your knees out, right? But deadly, not letting go of a choke. I don't know.
Have you had many chokeouts?
I've had a few submissions. I never choked anyone unconscious. They've always tapped beforehand.
Yep.
But I've had a couple submissions. Yeah, I mainly go for the knockouts though.
Yeah, I've noticed.
Have you ever been? What about you? Have you been caught with a foot to the face before?
In practice, yeah, definitely taking my fair share of some head kicks and things you hope didn't land. But if you're gonna push your way to the top, you got to get your ass kicked a little bit as well too. And if you're not getting your ass kicked, you're not in the right gym. You're not gonna get better.
That's true, huh?
You got to surround yourself with guys that are gonna put it on you day in and day out because you need that pressure of knowing how good you are and someone trying to push you.
Who's beating up John Jones?
It's a great question.
Somebody did.
His mama.
Yeah, himself every now and then. Yeah.
He's his own worst enemy
Yeah.
for sure.
If you could take all of the training that you've learned to this point, go back to high school, do you think it'd be like an action movie? You just kick everyone's ass, or
I
what?
would get in way too much trouble because like when I was old enough to knew that I was a really good fighter, I just never wanted to get into confrontation. I don't want to hurt someone. Like it's just I'd rather get paid to do it, right? But if I knew these skills in high school, I would have got myself in some serious trouble. When you're an asshole full of testosterone back then, it's like probably not good news.
Which feels more like home, Colorado or California?
California. I was born and raised here. I miss Colorado, but born and raised in California, Northern California.
Did the altitude help like that training? Because you spent 4 years up there training?
Yeah.
Do you think that made you like the training in the altitude made you like tougher?
I don't. I actually think it was worse.
Wow.
Yeah. You never recover as well, right? So a lot of these guys think about altitude simulators. And if you're sleeping at altitude, your body's never getting a chance to recover until it's adapted to that altitude. You actually want to be able to sleep at sea level and do certain days of training at altitude. So ideally, it'd be best to have like a helicopter and fly up on a mountain, train, and then come back down for
That sounds
sleeping.
so fun.
That could be where the sport's going.
We use altitude simulators like here in the States with the train, or not States, here in California, sea level training and sleeping and recovering, but we're using an altitude simulator at certain times of the day to boost the red blood cells.
Nice. Okay, final question. You're so nice to give it to me. What song or album is heavy on rotation right now?
Right now.
Right now.
I'm just always the Eagles, Tom Petty, Chili Peppers.
I like
that.
Sublime. I keep the old mixes, just keep going. I'm not into, probably, I'm not as hip on all the new stuff. I just don't know. Like I had my nephew come and stay with me and he's like playing all this stuff in my car that I have no idea about, right? So I'm more of an oldies kind of guy.
I like that.
Someone just said, is there a motive behind your walkout song to Red Hot Chili Peppers?
I've just been a big fan of Red Hot Chili Peppers my whole life, and I thought "Can't Stop" is one of their best songs for a walkout, right? Because a lot of their songs you really wouldn't want to walk out to, because I like to get pumped up, and "Can't Stop's" just got like the best beat, the best intro, and it's got some good messages in there. However you take them for yourself, but for me, I put it in the realm of like me competing and fighting, and so that's why that
Can't
song.
stop.
Yeah,
Boom.
Addicted to the shindig.
Dang. Guys, well, there it is. UFC two-time Bantamweight champion, TJ Dillashaw, man, thank you for stopping by.
Of course.
True legend and icon of the sport. We appreciate you lots here at Monster Energy. Thank you, Brittney. Thank you, Danny.